What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Crew 2, and in this video I'm going to take a look at the Proto Concept Spear Racing. This car was the Alpha GP reward in the last summit, and or like the Platinum reward that you actually could get, which is going to make it 13 Alpha GP cars. So there really is going to be a lot of these that we can actually use now. The biggest question is though, are some of these cars actually going to be useful? Like something like the SM71 from the Motor Pass and or like the Mark X. Then we're also going to have like the Glow Motorsport. So I would say a lot of players are not going to be the biggest fan of some of the way these new cars do handle. I do know a lot of players don't like the way the Glow Motorsport handles either. So the biggest question is though, is this Spear Racing actually going to be good? And from the testing I have done with this vehicle so far, I'm actually pretty impressed with it. I would say it's going to be one of the better handling new Alpha GP cars in the Crew 2. And upon first glance, guys, the first thing you're probably going to see is this big turbine fan thingy. I thought this was like a turbine engine, but not 100% sure on that. We're also going to have fans over here on the side as well. And when you guys are moving and or you start the car up, they are going to be spinning. So I really do like the way this car does look over some of the other ones. I feel like they really did destroy the design of these cars, guys. Like they do look awesome. And you will be able to change the rims on this car as well, similar to the other new Alpha GP vehicles. Of course, guys, the rims are not going to be special, though. It's going to be like the 80 or so rims that are in the Crew 2. I really can't wait to see which rims are going to make their appearance in Motorfest. I really hope to see some BBS and or some HRE wheels or something like that. I think would be awesome. Not as insane as Need for Speed, but I would like to see brand name rims in the game, though. But I do feel like a lot of players are going to keep these on this vehicle. Overall, though, guys, I do think the Spear Racing is going to be a pretty awesome looking Alpha GP car. But besides all that, though, let's go do an outside look of this vehicle right now and then take this thing on a quick top speed test. So moving over to the outside look of this Spear Racing, guys, one of the first things I noticed about this car is going to be the fact that it actually does have lights on it. Of course, it doesn't have a braking light, which is not very shocking, which some of the other Alpha GP cars do. This thing is actually going to have some cool LEDs on the front here, which you guys will see on the front of the splitter, and also the side of the car as well. So that's definitely a nice little plus. And you will also see the fans spinning on the top there, and or the back of the car as well. So I do think a lot of players are going to like this one. I would probably admit this is probably going to be my favorite looking new Alpha GP car so far, even over the ones that were in the Motor Pass as well. But let's take a listen to that engine. But moving over to the interior view of this car, guys, you're probably going to notice the steering wheel is going to look exactly like the other cars. Of course, it's also going to have some nice detail, so it is a plus there. And one thing I did notice is once again that RPM reader is not going to work on that steering wheel. I would probably love to see this in the 488. But my goodness, having that on these cars would probably be awesome. But then again, the Crew 2 is not going to be a simulator, so I guess I can't really get mad at that. Now let's go do a top speed test on the Spear Racing to really see what this car can get to. Now of course guys, every single new Alpha GP vehicle tends to do around 319, so if I had to guess, this car's probably going to be insanely similar to those. And it's also going to be an 8 speed as well, which some of the other cars are 7 speeds. So I feel like if you guys do like shifting, this is going to be the car to use. And I'm sure one thing a lot of players also noticed about the Spear Racing is this car is basically going to have a very similar transmission to like a Red Bull. So if you guys are a fan of those cars, I would recommend trying this one out as well. But doing the Nitro Chemist test right now, guys, over this hill, the car is going to hit around 319 miles per hour. So it is going to look like it's going to be around the same as those other cars are, which I would say is not going to be a bad thing because a lot of these cars do have a higher top speed, which I have been noticing on the new events with those boosters. It does tend to help slightly as well, so 319 miles per hour on this car is definitely going to be a big positive, but I wouldn't say it's going to make this thing overpowered in any way though, which I would say is a big concern for many players as well. But Luckily guys, I feel like Ubisoft did do pretty dang good with the balancing of these cars, even something like a Summit Reward. So the Alpha GP class is definitely growing a bit now compared to before. I do know a lot of the players were basically running the exact same car for a while, which I'm not gonna lie guys, I have been noticing one car being used insanely often, even over basically the Pulse Performance and or the Sparrow competition. That's going to be the Proto Alpha Mark II, so I do have a feeling that's most likely not going to change because that car is insanely good, especially with the way that that thing does handle. It can easily beat some of these new cars around a track, and that's probably not going to change in the future, but at least we can run cars like the Spear Racing and still compete. For me guys, I will most likely never use the Proto Alpha Mark II. I just don't like using those quote-unquote meta vehicles. I tend to jump into something weird like the Pulse Performance and or something like the RB13 and or cars you just don't see all that often. I will definitely be trying out the Spear Racing in future summits. I just do tend not to use these cars in summits though because I do kind of feel bad running them. I do know a lot of players most likely had issues trying to get this thing, so if they do see you running something like this in a summit, they might get kind of discouraged and or might not be able to do that because they don't have that one specific car that you do. But I really do think the Spear Racing is going to be a great car overall. I would definitely pick this thing over some of the other Alpha GP cars like the Sparrow Edition and or even the SM71 because I love the way this car does go around corners. It feels like it does have a lot more agility, plus it's also going to be insanely fast as well. Now I did mention during that top speed test that I did notice the RPM reader on this vehicle is basically going to be the exact same as the Red Bull Editions, and it's also going to be an 8-speed as well, so I would say this car is going to be very similar. And I also did notice the way this car does go around corners, it also does feel like a Red Bull. I honestly would not doubt it if this car is going to be on the exact same platform. It's just going to look insanely different, but it does have lights though. I really do love the fact that this car does have lights compared to some of the others. And those green LEDs probably look insane at nighttime guys, but the biggest thing though, how is this Spear Racing going to do on those new racetracks in the Crew 2? I do think a lot of these cars and or these tracks are probably going to have a lot of mixed opinions. I would like to know what you guys think about the Alpha GP cars in the comments below. I do know a lot of players are most likely not the biggest fan of these cars, and I really can't get mad at you because some of them are kind of wonky to race, and they do take a bit of practice and or to get used to that handling, so I really can't blame you guys for not liking some of these. And we're also going to have boosters on racetracks now as well, so you will definitely be traveling a lot faster. And I did notice around certain corners guys, you will want something that can actually go around that corner correctly. I did notice depending on how the boosters are set up on that said corner, some of the cars don't handle all that great, so I would highly recommend trying out the Spear Racing though guys, because this car was insanely surprising around corners. I really do like the way this thing does handle over some of the other ones. I do know a lot of players are not the biggest fan of these new Alpha GP cars, so maybe the Spear Racing is actually going to be a better experience. Overall though guys, I would again recommend trying out this vehicle because it's going to be insanely nice looking, and it's also going to have some nice handling to actually back this thing up as well. I would like to know what you guys think about this Spear Racing in the comments below, and here are my pro settings on the Concept Spear Racing.